What's up, guys? I hope you're having a good day today. Hopefully, you're staying sober. And this is kind of a follow up video to the other one. Just getting into part one of basically my story, like how it started, kind of, and how it grew into the beast, how alcoholism grew into the beast it was, it ended up being. So, growing up, I grew up in Florida. This is how a lot of these stories usually start, right? When you're growing up. So I grew up in Florida in a small town, and everything was pretty normal up until I was 8 years old when the SWAT team actually raided my home and took my father away. He was up to some no good activities, and he went to prison for a long time. He's out now. I have no connection with him or anything. So that was when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and then just a couple years later, my mom actually passed away from cancer. And for those 2 or 3 years, she had like in-home care and whatnot. Nurses would come to the home and care for her, and but that also slowly developed, that was obviously really tough. So that's a little about my childhood, and then I ended up moving. After my mom passed, my grandma was taking care of me and my sister, and we ended up moving up to Massachusetts with my aunt, my mom's sister, and I lived with her for like a year, but I was getting friendly with her boyfriend's family side. No blood relation, it was just my aunt's boyfriend's family. I was getting really friendly with them. They had some boys my age. We would all hang out. We all became really good friends. And that lady actually ended up adopting me legally. And I moved in with her because my aunt, my blood-related aunt, she has always had like a drug problems with drugs, alcohol, and she's always trying to manipulate like government subsidies and crazy stuff like that. Always trying to get a check from the government for something. So it was a pretty bad environment, and Cynthia, the lady who adopted me, she caught on to this pretty quickly. And I guess they were talking, and Cynthia said, he can come live with me. So she gave me a really good environment to grow. And when I was 13, I was walking through the store. I came across the magazine, Flex magazine, with the bodybuilders magazine. I saw that and I said, I want to work out. And so I did my push-ups and things like that. I rode my bike really hard to exercise. We had like little weights around the house I would try to use as much as I can. Do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. And about a year later, after I kept talking about it with Cynthia, she got me a gym membership. And so, boom, I'm working out. She's buying me, chicken and broccoli and rice and little things that I can eat, oatmeal. She always had food for me that I could eat. And I took working out super seriously. It was my dream to be like a professional bodybuilder when I got older. Little did I know the perceptions would change. So I was doing really well. Like I was a pretty big kid in school. Even the teachers were like, damn, dude, like you're jacked. Like the teachers were like, dude, you're more jacked than I am. I'm a grown man. And so I got pretty big by the time I was 16. Nothing crazy, I wasn't breaking any records or nothing. But I was definitely one of the bigger kids, most muscular kids in school. all I did was work out. I loved it. I would skip like gym class to go to the, lift weights at the gym. I didn't give a fuck. I knew I wasn't going to college or anything like that. Like I said, I had it made up in my mind where I'm gonna be like a professional bodybuilder. Or if that didn't pan out, I would do personal training, which, you don't really need to go to school for that. That's another story for another part. So yeah, there I am. I'm sober up until I'm like 16, and I used to be really good with girls. I had a bunch of girlfriends, and then this one girlfriend. I'm 28 years old now. 29, actually. I'm 29. My birthday was yesterday. 29. But anyway, this one girl we went through like, at least I took it really hard because I really liked this chick. Anyway, looking back on it, it's all nothing. But yeah. So, but at the time, I was tore up. I was really depressed, and I was like, I want to stop feeling so depressed. And one of my buddies, he smoked weed and everything, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll smoke weed. And so that's how the beginning of the end, so to say, happened. I got really into weed. I stopped working out. I stopped caring about that stuff. I started making a whole bunch of new friends, because back then I had girlfriends, but I didn't have like friends. I had a group of friends, but we actually we all went our separate ways. And so I made a whole new group of friends. We would always get together, just talk about, where to find the weed, who's got the money, where can we smoke. You guys know the whole deal. And so I didn't even really like drinking at that time. It was just weed. And then I got into the acid and the mushrooms pretty heavy for like a year. And, I did all that kind of stuff. And after high school, I graduated smoking weed every day. My senior year of high school, pretty much I skipped as many classes as I could just to go smoke weed and do whatever I wanted. Yeah, like I said, pretty much stopped working out. I would still work out every now and then. Didn't really... pretty much all my hopes and dreams went out the window, basically. I was so focused on getting high. And yeah, it's just weed, nothing crazy. But that's pretty much when I knew, like, I have an addictive personality. Anyway, after high school, I got this job at a kitchen, and I worked there from 18 until I was 24. And actually, I worked my way up into a management position. The last 2 years I was there, I really excelled at what I did, and I got that place running in tip-top shape. Like, and working out was still a part of my life. I would go hard and take a break, because at that point in time, I pretty much figured out, like, all those professional bodybuilders, they all use drugs, steroids, and I knew I would not be able to afford that or want to even take that risk. So all that pretty much went out the window. And this is pretty much about the time I started drinking pretty heavy. I made some really good friends when I was between 18 and 24. But, over time, when I was like 22, 23, started parting ways with a lot of them except one. Two people, actually, Jeff and Keenan. They're still really good friends of mine to this day. And yeah, so hold on. All right, just turn that down a little. So it's pretty much when I started drinking. When I was 21 years old, I remember going out to a bar to celebrate. I only went with a couple of close friends. They were older folks from the kitchen. They took me out. They were basically my managers at the place I worked at, and we celebrated, and but that's kind of, I feel like, when I started to fall in love with alcohol. I would start, well, I went through a couple of phases actually. Before I was 21, I went through another bad breakup with another girl, I got super depressed, and alcohol probably played a role in it. Um, but I was drinking really heavily. I would have other people buy the alcohol for me, like a whole big bottle of gin. Like I was drinking while I was at work, um, but I never let my life get out of control. I never started like any drama with anybody or anything. This is when I was like just before I was 21. I remember, and I was able to. Well, I didn't even mention the part when I was like, before I graduated high school, I got kicked out of my house because the lady who adopted me, she really didn't like me smoking weed. And I was pretty defiant, and so I got kicked out. And she ended up, I didn't see her this is when I was working at McDonald's, actually, before I graduated. I started working when I was young, like 16, and so she kicked me out like a month or two before graduation. I stayed at one of my buddy's house, and she ended up coming to my graduation, and pretty much from there, I think, took me back home. Said I can come back and everything, so I did. And I got kicked out again when I was drinking and still smoking and whatnot. Yeah, what next? I mean, it pretty much went through phases, but I ended up going through another phase where I was drinking a lot with that girl, and then after we broke up, I was still drinking a lot. That's pretty much when I was turning 21, and then I could buy the booze myself, so I went through a pretty bad phase for a couple months where I was drinking heavy, but I pretty much, I nipped it in the butt, and then I started doing even better at that job I was at, and I would go on to become the manager. I cleaned up pretty well. I stopped drinking unless it was on occasion. Like I always smoked weed. I smoked weed pretty much every day for 10 years, from when I was 16 until 27, the last day, June 4th, 2020. Maybe there were some days I didn't have the money or didn't have the connection, but pretty much smoked weed every day. But the weed never affected me like alcohol, so I would drink on occasion and everything would be okay. But there came a point when I was about 24, a lot of stressful things were happening in the kitchen. I turned to the bottle again. I let it get out of control. I started drinking at work again, and it got really bad. Actually, there was a point where I got kicked out another time because of my drinking. And so Cynthia, she kicked me out again when I was like 23, and I actually went, I actually lived at the place I worked at. I bought an air mattress. I set it up in a little hidden location, but yeah, it was crazy. So I lived there for a couple of months, really. And then, things kind of blew over, and Cynthia let me move back in. She always gave me another chance. So I go back in, pretty much, I stay clean, I stay good, and I'm doing well at the kitchen, because it was like a food packaging kitchen. It wasn't a restaurant. They basically made packaged food for grocery stores in Massachusetts, like Trader Joe's. And so again, like these phases, like off and on, like obviously I could tell many times in my life before I let it totally take me over, alcohol is a problem, alcohol is the problem. So up until this point, where I was 24, I already got kicked out of, my mom's house twice. And, I keep having like a drinking problem whenever I'm depressed or whatever, and I end up drinking like all day, every day, stuff like that. So I think that's about it for part one. I could tell there was a problem with the booze, because I could just drink like so much, like it didn't matter. Like there was a lot of times in the kitchen where I had to work late, like after everyone else went home, because I was the guy. I made sure everything ran so smooth, but I would buy a bottle, put it in the freezer, and I would just sip on it while I'm doing my work around the kitchen. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I didn't even get my license till I was 23. I rode a bike everywhere, but I used to love that, actually. I've been thinking about buying a bike lately. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it for part one. You guys have any experiences, any crazy stories? Of course, this is going to be a multi-part series about my history and how it happened and what it turned into. But so, at this point in the story, I'm 24. I've had a couple of bad stints with alcohol, got kicked out of the house a couple times. And I got in trouble with the law when I was 19. I actually got arrested with a pound of weed, like $1,000 and a scale, all inside of a backpack. I got hit with the intent to distribute, 1 year probation, and I stopped everything after that. That was when I was 19, 20 years old. I was really young, but that was enough for me. I cut that off immediately. So there's a little bit about my history with weed and alcohol. So, stay tuned, subscribe to keep up with the next part. The next part really gets into really the meat and potatoes of the alcohol and how it really tore my life down. So till then, stay sober or try to get sober. A piece of advice is to start, instead of drinking, work. Try to work more. If there's anything you can work on, do that work. So that's about it. Peace.